I knew she hated me the moment her father died. But it wasn't always like that. Once, Brooke used to wrap her arms around my chest at night and whisper, "You're the only one I trust." Now, she was standing in a black silk dress at her father's funeral, sunglasses on, smirking like she just won a bet. Her hand gripped my elbow with just enough pressure to hurt as she leaned in and whispered those words that changed everything. "You're nothing without my name." I didn't flinch, not even when she added with a sneer, "Good luck getting hired now." I still remember that moment like a bullet in slow motion. Her family was old money, real East Coast power, not just the kind that buys boats and bottles. And me? I was the charity case they let in the door. Her dad liked me, taught me more about the business world than any Ivy League degree could have. But he was gone now, and Brooke had claws. 3 weeks after the funeral, I was blacklisted from every financial firm in Manhattan. I'm not exaggerating. My phone didn't ring. Recruiters ghosted me mid-interview. One bold HR rep even told me straight, "We were informed you have integrity issues." Integrity. That's rich coming from Brooke, who used to fake charity events just to launder money through her cousin's shell company. Yeah, I knew about that. Her father told me everything. Because deep down, he knew his daughter was poison. And still, I married her. The thing is, I could have survived the career hit. I could have started over. But it was the affair that broke me. It started small. A perfume I didn't recognize. A new phone password. Suddenly working late. Always helping her grieving mother. Brooke didn't grieve. Brooke calculated. I came home early one Thursday. Something felt off. You know that silence that's too quiet? Her heels were by the door, her jacket flung on the banister. But no, "Hey babe." No music, no sound from upstairs. Just this weird, muffled rhythm coming from the guest room. I walked slow. Didn't want to believe it. Opened the door, just a crack. Enough to see her. Brooke. On top of someone. Moving like a woman who forgot her wedding vows and found religion in a stranger's lap. She didn't see me. Not at first. She was too busy moaning some guy's name. Trevor. Like a damn prayer. Trevor. Her assistant. I closed the door quietly. My chest was ice. I didn't scream. Didn't punch the wall. I just sat on the edge of our bed, staring at my wedding ring like it was a joke. 10 minutes later, she walked into the room wearing a robe like nothing happened. Hair messy, cheeks flushed. She saw my face and froze. "Why are you home?" she asked. That's all she said. Not sorry. Not "this isn't what it looks like." Just, "Why are you home?" I looked at her. Really looked. The smirk on her lips. The way she stood like she still owned the room. And that's when it hit me. She didn't love me. Hell, she didn't even like me. She just thought I was useful. But I was already smiling. Because 5 years earlier, in his wine cellar full of Cuban cigars and power plays, her father had shown me how to hide assets, how to build shell companies, how to structure ownerships through layers and veils until you could own an empire and no one would know. He taught me because he saw something in me. And now, 5 years later, well, let's just say Brooke was about to learn a lesson her daddy forgot to teach her. I didn't raise my voice, didn't throw accusations. I just stood up, grabbed my coat, and said, "You'll see me again. Just not the way you expect." And I meant it. She laughed as I walked out. "Oh, please, don't be dramatic." But 5 years later, she walked into that merger meeting and saw my name on the acquisition papers. Her jaw dropped. And that was just the beginning. She stood frozen in the boardroom, her freshly manicured fingers gripping the edge of the mahogany table like it was the only thing keeping her upright. The moment our eyes met, her pupils shrank. Her lips parted slightly, trying to form words, but nothing came out. It had been 5 years. 5 long, grueling, glorious years. I wasn't the same man she smeared through the mud. I'd bled, starved, clawed my way out of the hole she tossed me into. But this was better than revenge. This was domination. I watched as she slowly sat down, her gaze darting across the paperwork. The firm her company was about to merge with, the firm she thought was owned by some faceless foreign investors, was mine. Every shell corporation, every trust, every layer, built using the knowledge her father gave me. My name wasn't on anything. Not until today. I leaned back in my chair and nodded to the stunned group of executives. "Shall we begin?" She didn't speak a word during the meeting. Not when I presented the figures. Not when I outlined the new management structure. Not even when I slid the final clause across the table, one that would push her out of any meaningful authority. She signed it. Her hand trembled, but she signed it. Pride wouldn't let her walk away, not in front of the board. When the meeting ended and the room emptied, she finally spoke. "You planned this," she hissed, face pale and jaw tight. I didn't answer. I just watched her, calm as ever. "All these years. You really think this makes us even?" I stood up slowly, walked toward her. She flinched. That made me smile. "Even?" I said quietly. "No, this isn't even. You used your family to bury me. You laughed in my face and said I was nothing without your name." Her face tightened. "You tried to destroy me." "I didn't try." "I did," she snapped. There it was. That old Brooke. Arrogant, venomous, cruel. I leaned in, so close she could smell my cologne. The same one she once begged me never to change. "You know what your father told me the night before he died?" She blinked. "He said, she's going to burn everything down eventually. Make sure you're the one holding the extinguisher." She slapped me. Hard. Her ring cut my cheek. I didn't flinch. "Feel better?" I asked. She stared at me, chest heaving. "I should have crushed you when I had the chance." "You did. And that's the only reason I'm standing here." I turned to leave. "You really think this little company will make you a king?" she shouted. "You're still the same nothing I married. You're still that pathetic intern my dad took pity on." I stopped at the door. "You're right," I said over my shoulder. "But the difference is, I learned from the best. You're still playing a game you don't even understand." That night, I got a call. From Trevor, the same assistant I caught her with. "You should know," he said, his voice low and nervous. "She's trying to get your merger flagged. She's calling in favors. Her uncle still has pull with the SEC." I laughed. "You think I didn't see that coming?" I asked. "She can try. You want me to send over the emails?" "Already got them. But thanks." I hung up and poured myself a glass of scotch. The same brand her father used to drink. Funny how things come full circle. But the real shock came the next morning. A knock on my door. Federal agents. Badge flashed. Warrant in hand. They were investigating Brooke. Fraud. Insider trading. Tax evasion. And they wanted my cooperation. The agents didn't know it yet, but I had files. Years of data. Hidden drives. Her father warned me long ago. Always keep a paper trail. Not for defense. For leverage. As they sat down in my office and unpacked their questions, I opened a drawer and slid a black folder across the desk. "Start here," I said. "Everything you're looking for is inside." Because Brooke didn't just cheat on me. She stole from her own family. Lied under oath. Cooked books. And I had it all. The agents looked at each other, flipping through the folder. Their expressions shifted from polite formality to something sharper, more focused. One of them, a woman named Agent Ramirez, narrowed her eyes at me. "How long have you had this?" she asked. "Long enough," I replied, calm, collected. I wasn't ready to burn it until now. She nodded slowly. "We've had suspicions, but nothing concrete. This is more than a starting point. This is a blueprint. Exactly what I wanted them to see. I hadn't just been collecting dirt. I'd been crafting a weapon. Every bank statement, every false invoice, every recording of whispered phone calls Brooke thought were off the record, they were all neatly organized, time-stamped, cross-referenced." "Why now?" Ramirez asked. "Why give it up?" I leaned back in my chair, staring out the window. Because she finally walked into my house thinking it was hers. They stayed for 2 more hours, asking questions, taking copies, confirming the validity of the data. I cooperated with every step, offered names, timelines, even the lawyers who helped her cover it all up. I didn't care anymore about preserving what little remained of our shared world. I wanted it gone. I wanted her to see it all collapse. And that collapse started fast. The news broke 3 days later. Prominent socialite Brooke Carrington investigated for financial crimes. Her face was everywhere. TV, internet, podcasts chewing up her name like meat in a grinder. Suddenly, the same woman who once sneered, "Good luck getting hired," couldn't get a PR firm to return her calls. But the best part? She still didn't know I was behind it. Not until the gala. It was a high-profile fundraising event hosted by the same organization that had once honored her for philanthropy. I was invited this time, not as her date, but as a silent donor, the kind whose checkbooks buy them a seat at any table. I wore a simple tux, nothing flashy, kept to the back of the room, sipping bourbon while the elite mingled like vultures circling a wounded deer. And then she arrived. Brooke looked stunning, of course. She always did. But there was a crack in the mask now. Her eyes darted, her smile too forced, her laugh a little too loud. She saw me across the room and froze mid-sentence. I raised my glass. She stormed over, ignoring the eyes that turned in her wake. "You're enjoying this," she hissed. I tilted my head. "Am I? You think this is some kind of game? You ruined me." I smiled. "No, Brooke. You ruined yourself. I just made sure the lights were on when it happened." "You think you're better than me now?" she snapped, too loud. People were staring. "I am better than you," I said quietly, "because I don't burn everything I touch." "You want to destroy me?" she whispered, desperate, eyes glossed with panic now. "Fine, but I swear to God, if I go down, I'm taking you with me." I leaned closer, eyes locked on hers. "Too late," I said. "You already tried, and you lost." She slapped me again, this time in front of everyone. Gasps echoed across the ballroom like fireworks. And I just laughed. Loud, real, unbothered. I left her standing there, her reputation bleeding out on the floor, and stepped into the night. But I wasn't done. Because Trevor, remember him? The assistant she threw our marriage away for? Yeah, he reached out again. Turns out Brooke didn't just use him for late-night relief. She used him to funnel money through dummy nonprofits in exchange for favors. And he had receipts. Literal ones. He wanted a deal. Immunity, protection, maybe even a career boost. I didn't promise anything, but I did set up a meeting with the agents. Brooke was cornered now. Legally, publicly, personally. And still, she tried to call me. Dozens of times. Left voicemails begging, then threatening, then sobbing. Told me she missed me. That I was the only one who ever truly understood her. I didn't answer. Not until the last one. "Please, Logan. I don't know what to do. I can't breathe. I didn't mean for it to get this far." I saved that one. For the court. Because this wasn't just payback. This was justice. Cold, methodical, and fully deserved. But it wasn't until she showed up on my doorstep, makeup smeared, hair in a bun, wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too big, that I realized just how broken she'd become. And for a brief second, I felt nothing. Not hate. Not sympathy. Just clarity. I opened the door. "Why are you here?" I asked. Her eyes were red. "I lost everything," she whispered. I nodded. "I know." She stepped inside without waiting for permission, like it was still her home. Like I still owed her something. The scent of her perfume, faint, familiar, and somehow sad, hung in the air between us. She looked around the place, taking it in. "You redecorated," she said, trying to sound casual. "I had to. You torched everything on your way out." She winced, but only slightly. No apology followed. There never was one. Just silence and entitlement. "I'm not here to fight," she finally said. "Good," I replied, motioning toward the couch. "Sit down." She did, hands trembling, voice low. "They froze my accounts." I heard. "They took the apartment." I figured. She glanced at me, sharp and bitter. "Why are you so calm?" I shrugged. "Because I'm not the one drowning." She clenched her jaw, and I could see the tears building behind her eyes. But Brooke never cried in front of anyone unless she wanted something. "I thought we were in this together," she whispered. "Even after everything, I thought." "You thought wrong," I interrupted. "You cheated on me, lied to me, humiliated me, blacklisted me from every firm in this city, and laughed in my face while doing it. So forgive me if I don't feel like we're on the same team." She stood up. Her voice cracked. "I was scared. You were getting close to my dad. He was telling you things I didn't even know. I thought you'd take everything." I stared at her. "So instead of trusting me, you destroyed me." "You don't get it," she said. "That's how I was raised. Power isn't something you share, it's something you own." I stood up now too. "Close. Too close." "Then you better own this," I said. "All of it." Her breath caught. "So what? You brought me here to gloat." "No," I said. "I brought you here to say goodbye." That hit her like a punch. "What? You're going to jail, Brooke. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but it's coming. And when it does, I won't be at your trial. I won't send letters. I won't visit. I won't even remember your name." She looked like she might collapse. For the first time, the steel in her spine cracked. "I'm scared," she said. "Good," I whispered. She left without another word. I watched her walk to the elevator, shoulders slumped, heels clicking with less pride than ever before. The door closed, and that was it. That night, I went back to the file cabinet. The real one, the one behind the false wall in my office. Inside were documents, USBs, hard drives, voice memos. All of it cataloged, indexed, the full weight of her sins in digital ink. I sealed them into a padded envelope and handed it off the next morning to Agent Ramirez. "Final piece," I said. She flipped through the top layer, nodded. "You've done more work on this case than some of our own people." "I had motivation," I replied. As I walked out of the federal building, the sun broke through thick clouds above the skyline. It felt poetic. Cheesy almost, but real. I could breathe again. Trevor messaged me later that night. He was in hiding, paranoid as hell. Apparently Brooke was sending people to track him down, scare him into silence. But it was too late for that. He'd flipped. Completely. "I just wanted to get out," he told me. "She promised we'd run away together. Then she cut me off." "She always does," I said. I offered him protection. Not because I cared, but because his fear would keep him loyal. And I needed that. The case was evolving now. Brooke wasn't the only one going down. Her mother, her uncle, even her fake charity board. All of them were on the radar. This was bigger than I expected. But I wasn't scared. Not anymore. Because I had what she never could understand. Control. The calls started again. Blocked numbers. Unknown IDs. Silent voicemails followed by distorted breathing. Then the texts, screenshots from old arguments, twisted half-truths, photos of us smiling at fundraisers like we'd been something worth remembering. She was unraveling. Then came the real threat. A package arrived at my office. No return address. Inside, burnt photographs of my apartment, my car, even a grainy image of me leaving the federal building. Just one note scrawled in red ink. "Watch your back. You think this is over." I stared at it for a long time, not angry, not scared, just tired. Brooke had always played dirty. But this was desperation. A last gasp before the final fall. I handed it over to the agents, and they took it seriously. Security detail was assigned. My office swept. Cameras installed at my home. But she wasn't going to stop. I knew that. I just didn't expect her to show up at my mother's house. My mom called me shaking, voice barely above a whisper. She came here. Brooke said she wanted to explain herself. You didn't let her in, did you? Of course not. But she stood out there for nearly an hour. Screaming. Crying. Then she just laughed. That laugh. I could hear it in my head. Cold, sharp, unhinged. I drove over immediately. Found the security cam footage already uploaded to the cloud. Brooke pacing outside like a caged animal. Hair wild, eyes bloodshot. At one point, she pulled out a lighter and held it to the mailbox before tossing it away and collapsing on the lawn. She was crumbling, imploding, and she wanted me to witness every second of it. Later that night, she sent me one last message, a video. Her face was swollen, makeup smeared, mascara bleeding into her skin like war paint. She was in some hotel room, bottle in hand, tears running down her cheeks. "You were supposed to need me," she said into the camera. "You were supposed to chase me, to beg, to hurt." She laughed again, high and hollow. "I was always better than you. You were just a pet project, a sidekick with good cheekbones." Then her voice dropped to a whisper. "But you know what the worst part is? I still dream about you. Every night. I wake up thinking you're next to me. And then I remember what I did. What you did. And I want to die." She looked dead into the lens. "I hope you rot for what you've done to me." I didn't respond. I just saved the video, encrypted it, and forwarded it to Ramirez. Then I turned off my phone. I needed space. Clarity. A way out of the storm. So I left the city. Rented a cabin upstate, middle of nowhere. Just me, the woods, and the silence. No noise. No Brooke. No threats. And yet, I couldn't stop hearing her voice. "You're nothing without me." I'd heard it so many times, I started to believe it. Until now. Until I realized I was more me without her than I'd ever been in our entire marriage. Up there in the cold, crisp air, I started writing again. Journaling. Sketching out the past like a timeline, tracing the wounds, marking the shifts. It helped me remember who I was before her. And then one morning, as the sun filtered through the trees, I got the call. "We have her," Ramirez said. She tried to flee. Booked a flight under her assistant's name. We intercepted her at JFK. I didn't say anything. Just listened. "She's being processed now. Charges are stacked. It'll go to trial. She's not getting out of this, Logan." I closed my eyes. Let the silence say what words couldn't. That night, I drank a toast to the man I used to be. The one who thought love could fix poison. Who believed promises whispered under satin sheets. Who thought trust was something that came with a ring. That man was gone. In his place stood someone colder, sharper, but still human. Someone who had finally reclaimed his life. The trial was scheduled for the spring. By winter, Brooke had gone completely off the rails. Every week, there was a new headline. Former socialite collapses in courtroom. Carrington heiress screams at prosecutors in explosive hearing. She was a spectacle, exactly what she always feared becoming. And for once, people saw through her. No one was buying the performance anymore. I sat in the back row for the preliminary hearing. She didn't know I was there. Didn't see me when she stumbled in, wrists cuffed, wearing that bland tan suit like it itched every part of her skin. Her lips were chapped, hair pulled tight into a bun that couldn't hide the fact that she hadn't slept in days. The prosecutor laid out the charges. Wire fraud, tax evasion, money laundering, witness intimidation, even blackmail. I watched her expression shift with each word, from defiance to confusion to something like fear. But not the kind that makes someone change. The kind that makes them dangerous. Her attorney, a man I once saw her mock for wearing off-brand loafers, tried to argue mental fatigue, emotional distress, grief over her father's death. The judge wasn't moved. Neither was I. After the hearing, I stepped outside and lit a cigarette. I don't even smoke anymore. I quit the day she first lied to my face about working late. But today, I made an exception. That's when someone tapped my shoulder. It was her mother, Cynthia Carrington. Fur coat, pearls, lips pursed like she'd sucked on a lemon. "Logan," she said with that ice-cold tone only old money can master. "We need to talk." I let out a slow breath. "I think you've all said enough. Not about this." She motioned for me to follow her to a black SUV parked along the curb. I hesitated, then followed. Inside, it was quiet, climate-controlled, and scented with expensive perfume. "She's sick," Cynthia said. "She's toxic," I corrected. "She needs help. She needs consequences." She studied me, that same arrogant tilt of the head Brooke had inherited. "You think you're the first man she's broken? The first to think you could save her?" I stayed silent. She was born into chaos. I made sure of it. Her father, God rest him, was too soft. Gave her too much power too soon. "And you," she leaned in. "You were just the latest lesson she had to learn." I laughed bitterly. "You talk about her like she's a failed science experiment." Cynthia's eyes didn't blink. "She is." Then she handed me a document. A single sheet of paper. "What's this?" "Insurance," she said. "For both of us." I scanned it quickly. It was a record, audio transcripts, internal memos, banking routes. Everything tying Cynthia to the foundation Brooke used to funnel money. The charity front. The smoking gun. "Why would you give me this?" "Because if my daughter decides to drag me down with her," she said calmly, "I want to make sure I can drag someone else down faster." I shook my head. "Your whole family's a goddamn chessboard." "No," she corrected. "It's a graveyard." And you just climbed out. I walked away without saying another word. I didn't want her games. Didn't want her leverage. I wanted peace. But peace doesn't come easily to men who've walked through fire. Even when you win, the scars stay. The final hearing was brutal. Brooke refused a plea deal. Thought she could charm the jury. Thought her old tricks would still work. They didn't. The day the guilty verdict came down, I didn't cheer. I didn't smile. I just walked out of the courtroom, into the sunlight, and kept moving. Because that was the last time I'd ever hear her name in a room that mattered. And I liked it that way. Months passed. I didn't go to her sentencing. I already knew how it ended. 15 years without parole, minimum security, but still prison. Even with all the favors she tried to cash in, even with her last-minute crocodile tears, the judge saw through it. Said she was a danger to the financial integrity of this country. That line made headlines for a week straight. I watched from a distance, from hotel rooms and quiet bars, places she never knew, places where her name didn't echo. I traveled, reconnected with people who knew me before I was Mr. Carrington. Some were surprised I was still alive. A few asked if I'd forgiven her. I hadn't. Forgiveness is for people who made a mistake. What she did was never a mistake. It was a choice. A series of calculated betrayals. She didn't just cheat with her body. She cheated with her ambition, her greed, her soul. And I paid for all of it. One night, I got a letter. Real paper. Real ink. The return address was the federal facility in Illinois. Brooke. The envelope was clean, almost sterile. Inside, 5 pages of slanted handwriting, the loops tighter than I remembered. She started soft. Said she hoped I was well. Said she thought about me every day. Said prison had opened her eyes. Then she got bitter. Said I turned her father against her. That I manipulated him into leaving her vulnerable. That I waited until he died to start playing God. There it was again. The victim narrative. Like I hadn't watched her lie with a straight face while covered in another man's sweat. Like I hadn't stood there, jobless and humiliated, while she sipped champagne with Trevor and told the world I was unstable. She ended the letter with a warning. Said she was going to appeal. Said her lawyers were still fighting. That when she got out, she wouldn't forget what I'd done. I burned the letter. No drama. No anger. Just flame. I met someone a few weeks later. At a bookstore, of all places. Her name was Elise. No ties to money. No hidden knives behind her smile. She worked as an editor, read too much poetry, had a habit of humming to herself when she thought no one was watching. She never asked about my past. Not once. And I didn't offer. Not yet. But I did tell her one thing, something no one else ever asked. What it felt like. Not the betrayal. Not the lies. But the moment I knew I was free. It was small. Quiet. No fireworks. No monologue. I was making coffee in a hotel kitchen in Lisbon. The sun had just started climbing through the windows. And I realized I wasn't thinking about her. At all. No rage. No ache. No echo. Just peace. That's when I knew. She hadn't won. Not even close. She tried to destroy me. Tried to bury me beneath her father's name. Beneath every lie she could stitch into a courtroom. But she forgot one thing. You can't kill someone who already clawed their way out of the grave. And now? Now I live quietly. No press. No headlines. I own 4 companies under 4 names. I write under a pseudonym. I donate anonymously. I keep my circle small, my secrets tighter. Sometimes, I still hear her voice in my dreams. Laughing, mocking, calling me weak. But when I wake up, Elise is beside me. And I remember exactly who the hell I am. It was a rainy Sunday when I got the final call. Agent Ramirez. Calm. Professional. But this time her voice had something else in it. Closure. She's not appealing anymore, she said. Her legal team walked. She signed a confession last week. Admitted everything. Even the stuff we didn't ask for. I leaned back in my chair, watching the drops trace patterns down the glass. Why? She's done, Ramirez said. Said she's tired. Said there's no one left to perform for. There was silence on the line for a beat. Then she added, she mentioned you. Of course she did. What did she say? That you were the only person who ever made her feel powerless. And that scared her more than prison ever could. I didn't say anything. Just let it hang there until Ramirez told me she was closing the file. You're free, she said. Free. I hung up and went outside. The rain was soft, almost warm. The kind that doesn't chase people away but makes them slow down, breathe deeper. Elise came out behind me, slipped her hand into mine. You good? She asked. I nodded. Better than good. And I meant it. I'd spent so long carrying the weight of that betrayal, feeding off it, letting it shape me. But now, it was over. The last thread had snapped. No more letters. No more courtroom drama. No more ghosts. Just life. Real, unfiltered, imperfect life, with its quiet mornings and unspoken peace. I used to think closure came with confrontation, with revenge, with making the other person suffer. But it doesn't. It comes when you stop needing any of it. She'll rot in a cell for what she did, not just to me, but to everyone who got caught in her fire. And maybe, for the first time, she'll have to sit alone with herself and see what she really is. That's her story now, not mine. Mine's still being written. Quietly. Honestly. And I hope anyone reading this, any man out there who's been torn apart by someone who claimed to love him, knows one thing. You're not weak for breaking. You're strong for healing. And sometimes, the best revenge is just being free.